a Scouse accent. You might be a Scouser, meaning somebody from Liverpool or around that area. And it's a very tricky accent to understand. I remember, in fact, my fiance said that when she arrived in Liverpool that first time and she got in a taxi and the taxi driver looked around like, "You all right, love, way off?" And she was like, "Oh my God, am I in Germany? Oh, what's going on?" Hola, 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 bienvenidos a Inglés Británico Podcast. Yo soy Luis y aquí tenemos a Chris. Hello, Chris.
Hello, how are you? Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm excited.
Me too. That makes two of us because this is the first podcast that we're recording, so I'm a little bit giddy, a little bit excited. I can't wait. And first, we should probably explain what this podcast is all about, right? So, Chris, do you want to do the honors?
I think that's a really good idea. Yeah, obviously, I'm sure it's the same for you as it is for me. A lot of my students tell me that they want to listen to a podcast that's real conversation. Yes, we are obviously going to teach some English. We're going to help students learn some new expressions. But I think the main thing is to give our students this opportunity to hear two British speakers have a conversation. Obviously, our knowledge of Spanish can help in that aspect as well. But yeah, the real thing is just listening to two Brits having a conversation. Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds good. So, yeah, as Chris mentioned, every week we're going to be posting a new episode talking about different topics, always making it very conversational. And both of us do speak Spanish as well. So, there will be some little translations whenever we use some nice idioms or phrasal verbs. If anything is unclear, we will sometimes translate it into Spanish just so you can follow everything we are saying, because of course the name of the podcast is in Spanish, Inglés Británico Podcast. So it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. Also, then a quick question, because I don't know the Spanish for a fantastic adjective you used a couple of minutes ago, giddy. I love this word, giddy. But I don't even know the Spanish for this, so I'm hoping maybe you can teach me the Spanish for giddy.
I don't know if there is a translation for giddy. It just came to me randomly. But if you are giddy, it's like you're excited in a fun, sometimes childish way. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm
I
so
see.
giddy.
I agree. It's like a childish excitement, but we do use it as adults as well. I'm so giddy. Yeah, it's that Christmas tomorrow. Yeah.
No, it's a lovely advanced and maybe quite British phrase, which is just to be excited. And yeah, you've stumped me. I don't know what it is in Spanish, so maybe I will teach that next week on my private Instagram page where every day, more or less, I teach different phrases from English to Spanish or Spanish to English. And I imagine people here already know us a little bit, but I'm sure there will be some people who are thinking, who are these guys? Lewis? Chris? Huh? Introduce yourselves. So let's do it. Chris, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Oh, thank you very much. So, yeah, my name is Chris Hughes. As Lewis mentioned, I also have a social media following on mainly Instagram, which is English Con Chris. Again, another Spanglish kind of title there. And yeah, I'm from Brighton, England, but I've been traveling the world for the last 12, 13 years. I'm not going to lie, I became an English teacher to be able to travel the world. It was a very selfish choice. It was all about me. I want to travel the world, and being an English teacher gives me the opportunity. However, I did fall in love with it as the years progressed, as I learned Spanish and understood the mistakes and the difficulties. I started to love teaching English even more. And that's where I am today, living in Spain, currently in England because I'm visiting family, but I do live in Spain. And yeah, I'm an English teacher. and I'm very happy to be here. How about you, Lewis?
Well, I'm also happy to be here, and I'm also
Yeah.
an English teacher. And I don't actually live in Spain, or at least I don't live in Spain anymore. And the story goes back to, well, I guess school, because ever since I was at school, I always liked the idea of kind of acting and playing with different accents and different people. So I'd sometimes pretend to be Mexican in my school classes just because I thought, like, oh, it sounds cool. Hasta la vista, baby.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah.
Exactly. And then from there, I went to university and studied languages because I didn't know what to do with my life. Classic. And then, whilst studying languages, after having spent time in Argentina and Italy, I went back to Liverpool where I went to uni and I met my fiance. And we've been together now for a decade. And she is from Sevilla, which is why some people maybe say that I've got a little bit of an Andalusian accent when I speak in Spanish. And well, since then, I've been teaching English, traveling a little bit. I have lived in Seville during this time, but right now I am in beautiful Brussels in Belgium. But the plan is to return to Spain in the not so distant future. So watch this space.
Exciting. So, a quick question about accents. Now, talking about British accents. Obviously, I'm from Brighton in the very south. You're from up north.
Clear. Yep, I'm from a small town near Leeds, so my accent's quite neutral, to be honest. I haven't got much of a Yorkshire accent, but you can still see a little bit of it. And the more I hang out with my friends or family back home, the more my Yorkshire accent comes back with strength.
Yeah, because that's what I wanted to mention. You don't have the stereotypical northern accent that I would normally hear from northerners. It's a very neutral accent. Would you agree? Again, this is not my opinion necessarily, but a lot of students have told me this. The northern British accents are more difficult to understand than the southern British accents. London, Brighton is maybe, again, not my necessarily my opinion, but maybe easier to understand than the Liverpudlian accent or Mancunian accent from Manchester. Mancunian from Manchester.
No, I agree 100%. Like, in particular with Newcastle or Liverpool, where their accent is a little bit different. So, if you have a Scouse accent, you might be a Scouser, meaning somebody from Liverpool or around that area. And it's a very tricky accent to understand. I remember, in fact, my fiance said that when she arrived in Liverpool that first time and she got in a taxi, and the taxi driver looked around like, "You all right, love? Where you off?" And she was like, "Oh my God, am I in Germany? Oh, what's going on?"
Yeah, it's so
And
different. Yeah.
what he said is like, "Are you all right, love? Where are you off?" So, "Are you okay, woman?" in an affectionate way. Where are you going? And the Scouse accent's very like, comes from
Yeah.
your throat. And then the Newcastle accent is maybe not quite as complicated, this Geordie accent, but it's very different to what people hear when they're doing their listening tests and they hear the crown and all of this kind of stuff. You're like, what? It's not the same language, is it?
Yeah. It's crazy. I do love the northern accents. From a British perspective, I love the melody of the accents is a lot more musical than my southern accent, I would say. But yeah, I think I understand people from the south better than I do people from the north. Yeah.
Exactly. And on that note, I do think that if you are able to tell where people are from in a different language, like in Spain, for example, that is a sign of like, okay, I'm getting good now. I've maybe got past the point of being an intermediate level and now I'm more of an advanced level. If you can pinpoint where different people are from, that's, your moment to give yourself a tap on the shoulder, on the back, and say, well done, me. So
Yeah.
you didn't mention whereabouts in Spain are you based and why do you live there?
So I forgot to mention. So I have lived all over Spain. I lived in Madrid, Barcelona, Alicante, Bilbao. But most recently, 2 years ago, I moved to Gijón. I loved Bilbao. I felt very home in Bilbao. Sorry, but I'm from Brighton, which is a coastal city in the UK. So I grew up with a beach. And unfortunately, Bilbao, it does have a beach fairly close, but it is still a metro journey to get there, an underground journey to get there. In Gijón, I can walk to the beach, and that's my dream. I need to have a beach where I can walk there and spend my weekends or the evenings reading Harry Potter. Yeah, I need the beach.
Excellent. Well, I've never been to Gijón, but my neighbors downstairs here in Brussels are from little towns near to Gijón. So at some point in the near future, I reckon I'm going to go, but let's see exactly when
Well,
it is.
let me know. Maybe we can do a podcast episode when we're actually together in the same place.
That'd be cool, wouldn't it?
That'd be really cool, yeah. So, well, just one more quick question before we start talking about the most common mistakes in English, which is our subject today. Are you able to differentiate the Spanish accents, as you said, with that level? I can do like Mexican and Spanish, Spain Spanish, because I lived in Mexico and Spain. Yeah. Ay, güey, es que la neta, güey, it's Mexican. Whereas ay,
Mhm.
tío, está petao is Spanish. But I can't really differentiate Gijón from Madrid, for example. For me, it's very similar. I don't know if you're able to differentiate Spanish accents.
I mean, sometimes, but maybe I'm just blowing my own trumpet, which in Spanish is a nice expression, and you can say tirarse flores, que a lo mejor me estoy tirando flores. Maybe I'm just blowing my own trumpet, but I think usually I can roughly guess. And for example, in Asturias, I know people they use the yeah, oh, sí, trae. So
Yeah,
they'll make
yeah,
these kind of sounds. And then if people are in Madrid, maybe some buzzwords that they might use was like, mazo,
yeah,
tío.
mazo,
But
macho, yeah.
there are others, but those are some quick ones that come to mind. So I'd say usually I can guess and have an idea, but I'm not able to say, oh, you are definitely from, I don't know, Murcia. I'm not sure. But of course, between countries, it's easier than it is within the same country.
Yeah, I was going to say, you said you lived in Argentina. Obviously, when I hear, yeah, vamos a la playa, okay, they're from Argentina because they said
Vamos a la
playa. So,
playa.
yeah, yeah,
¡Qué
la calle.
quilombo!
Yeah,
No, but it's a fun little game to play, I think, whenever you are watching a series or you're listening to a podcast to think like, oh, I wonder where he's from. Is he from here or there? And then when you do actually get it right, acertar, then it's like, come on,
yeah.
yes, I did it.
Vamos, come on.
Vamos, exactly. Now, let's get started with the topic, shall we? You mentioned the subject this week is all about the most common errors, the most common mistakes that our students make when we have been teaching them over the last, collectively, 20 years of teaching English. So
Wow.
we're
Wow.
experienced, you know?
When you put it like that, that's a long time. Yeah. When you add
We're
our
old,
experiences
aren't we?
together. Yeah. Yeah.
We are aging like a fine wine. I think you have a similar expression in Spanish as well. It's like envejecer como un buen vino. Now we're getting older with style. So,
Yeah. Well,
are you
I
ready?
mean, I'm having to use a lot of anti-age moisturizer at the moment, but I'll take the compliment. Thank you.
I have lots and lots of wrinkles here on my
Yeah.
forehead as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
it is what it is. Or a lovely phrase in Spanish, es lo que hay. It is what it is. It is what it is, mate.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't change it.
Excellent. So let me share my screen and everybody will also be able to see this as it says, los errores más comunes en inglés. And that's me showing you that I do also make a very common mistake as an English speaker when I speak in Spanish, because unfortunately, I'm not very good at pronouncing the double R. Sounds like I'm choking.
Yeah, yeah, it's like you're gargling when you have water. Yeah.
Chris, have you always been able to pronounce the double R in Spanish?
So to use the expression you recently used, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but yes, yes, I don't know why. I think maybe this is one of those tricks that some people can achieve with ease, whereas other people need lots of practice. But I was able to straight el perro de San Roque tiene rabia, porque I don't know why. I've been always been able to roll my R's, maybe not perfectly like a native Spanish speaker. But yes, I didn't really need to practice or do any exercises. It just kind of came naturally to me.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
Lucky you. I'm not jealous at all, obviously. Okay,
I think,
so
yeah, it's just
anyway.
that as long as you just keep practicing, just don't do it on the metro or on the bus, because then you might get a few weird looks. If you I'm gonna change seat, I think. Yeah.
I've had many strange looks walking around different cities around the world trying to pronounce the double R, and then people maybe stopping and staring and thinking, is he crazy? Shall we run away?
Yeah. Or maybe he's just got something in his mouth. Yeah.
Now, from there, let's kick off with my first most common mistake in English. And it is prepositions plus ing. And the mistake is that people don't usually do this. Chris, do you know what I'm on about?
I do, yeah. This is obviously a very common mistake for me as well. I don't think this rule exists in Spanish, which is maybe why it's quite difficult for Spanish students learning English. But yeah, no, I'm very excited to hear your explanation.
Examples of this would be, for example, I'm interested in to play football. Because we have in and directly after a verb, that verb needs to be in ing. So I'm interested in playing football. That's just one example. Another could be with before and after. So I'm going to cook before going to the gym. Ding!
I think for me
Or
personally, those are the most common mistakes with prepositions and ing are the words before and after, which are prepositions. But I hear this all the time: before to play football, before to study English. So yeah, I think for me, those two words are the most common mistakes when talking about prepositions and ing.
no, I agree 100%. I think we see eye to eye, or we could also say we are on the same page. In other words, we agree about this. And other ones might be with about, like, I'm thinking about to try, blah, blah, blah. But we need, again, ing because, about, in, of, at, all of them are prepositions. So prepositions plus ing is the correct correction, let's say.
So, a quick question for you related to this subject. Obviously, the preposition to can be very difficult when talking about this rule, because sometimes the to can be a preposition, but sometimes it's the infinitive verb to play. So for me and my students, this is where it gets very confusing, where you have accustomed to, acostumbrado a. In this example, the to is a preposition that goes with accustomed. So lots of my students, they say, oh, but to is to play, to eat, to drink. Sometimes, yes, but with the word accustomed, it's the preposition to. I'm accustomed to eating, playing. So I don't know if you've experienced something similar specifically with the preposition to.
Yeah, I mean, another example here would be look forward to, because this is a phrase that, well, it means to be excited about something usually. So I'm looking forward to going on holiday. That's the correct phrase. But we can also use it at the end of an email to say, just looking forward to hearing from you, looking forward to meeting you. So this is a very similar example to be used to or get used to, where we always need to use ing. The amount of times people make these mistakes is, infuriating. But we
Yeah.
believe in you. We believe in you. You can do it.
And then the problem is, I want to playing. No, to play. But earlier you said that after preposition. Yeah, I know I said that, but in this context, the to is not a preposition. It's the infinitive verb to play. So I do understand that can be very confusing for students. Yes.
And remember, we didn't invent the language.
Yeah.
Sorry, not me.
Yeah.
It's not my
Sorry,
fault.
guys. Yeah.
It's not our fault. No es culpa nuestra. It's not our
Yeah.
fault. All right, Chris, over to you then.
Perfect. So, speaking about to, this is my fifth most common mistake that I normally hear. I think probably because the verb contact is such a commonly used verb, especially in the professional world. I need to contact. In English, we don't use to. I hear it all the time. I need to contact to my boss, contact to my client. No, with the verb contact, we don't use to. I contact my boss. I contact my client. I don't know if this is a mistake you regularly hear as well.
Yeah, I think it is because a lot of the time I will also hear people sometimes saying contact with. Like, I want to contact with the lawyer. I need to contact with your superior. Because I think it depends in Spanish, but a lot of people will say contactar con alguien. Whereas in English, this structure, this preposition with the verb, they don't go together. You know, they don't go hand in hand. No
Yeah.
van de la mano. So you contact someone.
Yeah,
Like,
think of
I'm
them as like
contacting
enemies.
you.
Contact and to, those two words don't like each other. They're never together. It's always contact someone.
Exactly. And the only way in which they might be in a similar phrase is if you said, I'm contacting Chris to ask about his availability. She contacted me to find out if I was available. So that's the only case we'd use to, but it would always go after the object, after the person.
Yeah, and again, this is an example of the infinitive verb. It's not the preposition to necessarily, it's with the verb to ask, to suggest, etc.
Wonderful. All right, well, let's move on to the next one. And it is when plus will. So a lot of people make mistakes in English when using conditionals. And this is just one of these examples because we have a time clause. And in particular, this is focusing on the first conditional. Because in English, we wouldn't use the phrase when I will be, when I will go, when I will visit. No. We need to split it up with a clause. So, when I, then the present. When I am older, of course, we are speaking about the future, but the will goes in the next clause. So, when I am older, I will have even more wrinkles. When I am older, I will be fat. When we are older, we will use a lot of moisturizer.
And lose our hair. When we are older, we will lose our hair.
Absolutely. Chris, have you also found people making similar mistakes with this or other conditionals?
Yes, especially with this one, I do agree. I kind of get it. I understand it because, as you mentioned, we are talking about the future. It's just the word will just eliminates that need the word when, eliminates the need for the word will, because we've used, as you mentioned, we've used this time clause when, so then it's in the present. I think it's the same in Spanish. I'm not sure. Cuando voy, cuando como, cuando desayuno. I think it's the same structure in Spanish, or is it cuando desayunaré?
I I think it depends a little bit, but a confusing thing if you're speaking about the future in Spanish is that you might use cuando and then subjunctive. So like cuando vaya a la playa,
Yeah,
te llamaré. So it's kind of like this in English. When you're speaking about the future, but directly after the when, we just use the present. And then in the next clause, you use will. And with the second conditional, for example, many people make mistakes with if I would. But again, we need to separate these because if plus the past simple, second conditional, if I were taller, I would play basketball, for example. So separating these clauses of when and if and the other verb tense, which could be will or would.
perfect.
Awesome. All right. Next up, Chris, take it away.
Excuse me. So, false friends. Yes, false friends. I think in Spanish, they even say false friends or false friends. I've heard some students say amigos falsos as well. But these are the words that exist in English and Spanish, which are exactly the same. The best example is sensible. There is a word in English, sensible, written exactly the same. The only difference is in Spanish, sensible, the I has the tilde. In English, we don't have tildes, so it's just sensible. But the letters are exactly the same. So it means the same, right? Lewis, would you say that in that case, they mean the same?
You would think so.
You
I
would think
mean,
so.
that's what everybody would imagine, but no, no, no. Like I said, it's not our fault. We didn't invent the
Yeah.
language, but it's not the same.
Exactly. So I imagine it's something from Latin, maybe, but these are false friends where even though sensible and sensible are written exactly the same, they have different meanings. Sensible would be sensitive, and sensato would be sensible. There are loads of examples of false friends in English and Spanish, so this is why it's a very common mistake for Spanish students learning English. I don't know if you've got any other very common examples of false friends.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few that comes to mind, but one of them that I'd like to bring up in particular is constipated. Um, because if you are constipated in English, it means that, well, when you go to the bathroom and sit down on the toilet, unfortunately, you cannot do a number two. You cannot poo. You're constipated, which in Spanish would be estreñido. To be constipated is estreñido. Oh, I haven't pooed all day. I'm
Yeah.
constipated.
I love the
But
number two as well. Like a number two is a poo and a number one is a wee. A very British. I don't think they use that in America. I might be wrong, but I think it's a very British way to politely talk about our bowel movements. Yes.
100%. And the confusing part is that if you say estoy constipado in Spanish, it means like you've got a cold, like you've got a blocked nose, or maybe you've got a runny nose. So, of course, both of them are related to the human body and illnesses in one way or another, but very different ones because it's normal for a student to say that they have a blocked nose or they have a cold, and this would be just standard practice. But when a
Yeah.
student tells me, "Oh, Lewis, I'm really constipated at the moment," I mean, I don't mind it. I'm happy to talk about bowel movements, but it's usually not the most normal thing in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also guilty of this myself, talking in Spanish where I think of a word and it's like, oh, then it must be the same in Spanish. But no, it's a false friend. So maybe I'm trying to think of an example now. Um,
Estás
I mean,
embarazada.
yeah, I mean, sensible is a good example. I would say, yeah, this is a really sensible idea because I'm thinking sensible idea, idea sensato, but because it's a false friend, I make these same mistakes as well. So don't worry, guys, you're not alone. Me and Lewis, or maybe just me, but yeah, I'm hopefully going to include Lewis into this as well. We both make mistakes with false friends as well.
Don't worry, we're in the same boat. En el
Yes.
mismo barco, in the same situation. Cool. Now, moving on to number 3, we've mentioned prepositions already, so I'll make this nice and short. But the prepositions in Spanish are not the same prepositions in English. So in Spanish, when you're thinking, depende de qué depende? In English, we don't say it depends of. We say it depends on. It depends on the weather. Another that comes to mind could be, consiste en. So it consists in English in? No. It consists of. And these are prepositional fixed phrases, but of course, other prepositions that we need to make sure we're getting right is with the time. So, for example, right now it is 1:45, and we use at for times of the day. Then for days or dates, we use on. So, on Monday, on the 2nd. And then when it becomes months, seasons, decades, years, then these bigger periods of time we use in. So, in September, in 2025, in the 90s, and so on and so forth. Chris, do you also see a lot of mistakes using prepositions?
I do, but I'm actually not going to say anything just now, and you will understand why when you see my number 2. So I think I'll keep my opinion to myself just for now because I'm sure later it will pop up.
Okay, in that case, you're number 3. Let's do it.
So my number 3 is I am agree, which again, this is another mistake because of direct translation. In Spanish, estoy de acuerdo, the estoy is I am. But in English, agree is a verb. So we can't say I am agree. I mean, grammatically, you could say I am agreeing. It sounds horrible. It doesn't sound very natural. It's a stative verb, I believe. So that's why it's not really correct. So the main thing here is just to remember, don't say the verb to be. I agree. Or in the negative, I don't agree or I disagree. I mean, Lewis, do you agree?
I 100% agree. And using these questions as well, this is a big source of errors. Like, are you agree? It's like, no, do you agree? So yeah, I agree. Or on the other hand, I could say I disagree or I don't agree, but no, don't worry. In this case, I agree. I
Yeah.
wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, I like the one you said earlier. I 100% agree.
100%. Now, number 2, stuffs, advices. Sounds weird, doesn't it?
It does.
Ugh. So, of course, in English, we have countable and uncountable nouns. So, when we have countable nouns that are plural, we use many. And when we have uncountable nouns, we use much. But to be honest, we use a lot of for both countable and uncountable. It probably sounds the most natural. So, that's one first thing that I recommend. But seeing these words, stuffs, advices, infos, and so on and so forth, we never use the S. Because it's uncountable, it always goes without the S. So I have a lot of stuff to do. Do you have any advice for me? And with advice, you can try to make it countable by adding piece of. Can you give me a piece of advice? Or you can use a common synonym, which is tip, which is countable. We can count it. So, can you give me 5 tips on how to improve my English, for example? But yeah, stuffs, advices, always without the S. Sin la S.
Yeah, I always like to teach my students the piece or pieces of. However, this doesn't work with all of them. Money is uncountable, but you can't say a piece of money. Of course not. No. So, yeah, with a piece of advice, a piece of information, a piece of does work for a lot of uncountable nouns, but don't think it works for all of them because unfortunately it doesn't.
Exactly. Perfect. Now, I'm looking forward to hearing your next one because you already teased it. Aha!
Yeah,
Chris,
that's
what is
why.
this sorcery?
So that's why I didn't want to mention anything before, because I would just be repeating myself now. I am going to do this very quickly because we've already mentioned prepositions. Obviously, you mentioned about the days, the times, and I completely agree. Those are very common prepositions. However, I want to focus a bit more on what you were saying at the beginning with depends on. These dependent prepositions which always go with a certain word. This can be
Mhm.
very difficult for students because it's memory. With in a box, you can kind of understand it because it's inside the box, so it's in the box. But depends on, there's no rule. There's no logic behind it. It's just memory, unfortunately. And just very quickly, focus on. I always hear focus in, enfocarte en, but in English, en could be in or on. So I think this is a very big mistake, is that, yes, the prepositions in general, but also these dependent prepositions which need memory. Yeah, focus on, depends on, accustomed to. Yeah, this can be very difficult.
The list goes on and
Yeah.
on. Oh, prepositions. What a
I
headache.
always
What a
say
night.
I always say to my students, think of them as married couples or in a relationship. Like focus is in a relationship with on. They go together. You focus on your work.
I like it. I didn't know you were such a romantic, but hey, we learn
I'm
something
a
every day.
single romantic. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, now my last one. And it's, well, a little bit of a controversial one, but I don't mind swearing on this podcast until we are monetized.
Yeah, until then, yeah.
So it is shit. Yeah, exactly. So shit and sheet or bitch and beach. Many students ask me to explain the difference because they've maybe had an uncomfortable or awkward encounter where they wanted to say beach or they wanted to ask for a sheet of paper, but they didn't dare because they were like, oh my God, what if I say shit? Oh my God, what if I say bitch? So, of course, it all depends on context. So people will always understand you. But here, the difference is the length of the vowels, the vowel sounds. So, shit is a short vowel sound. So when you say it often, you say it quickly and almost like you're angry. Whereas sheet, when you say it, it's a little bit longer. Try to elongate that vowel sound. And if you smile, it helps to make this sound. And practicing that with the next one, bitch. If you're talking about a, you know what, bitch, you're not going to be happy. So you're going to be angry. So make sure you don't smile and pronounce it quickly with this short vowel, bitch. And then if you want to talk about a lovely place where you might go swimming or, I don't know, go for a walk, it is a beach. I love being by the beach. E. You love being by the beach, don't you, Chris?
I do love the beach. I also think it's quite funny how English speakers, we understand the similarity of these words. And I'll give you an example. When I was in Australia, long time ago, there was a shop which was selling bedding, ropa de cama, bedding. So the sheets, the duvets, the pillows, like anything related to bedding. What was it called? Holy sheet. So again, not shit, not holy shit, which is the expression, but even English speakers, we understand how similar they are, so we make jokes out of it. Yeah, holy sheet was the name of the shop. Great name, brilliant name. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Now, anyway, let's move on to the last one because we're quickly running out of time. Se nos agota el tiempo. We're running out of time.
Yeah. So, very quickly, let's just quickly speak about I pass a good time with my friends. The reason this is the most common mistake that I hear is because it's the most common activity that we do. We spend time with our friends. We don't pass time with our friends. We spend time with our friends, or even more natural, we hang out with our friends. To use the phrasal verb, hang out, pasar el rato, we hang out with our friends. So I think that's enough of an explanation, really. Just don't say I pass time. We spend time with family, spend time with friends, or even hang out. And yeah, the reason this is number one is every Monday, how was your weekend? Oh, it was really good. I passed time with my friends every Monday. I hear this mistake. So that's why it's number one on the list for me. Yeah.
And this is what you're doing at the moment as well. As you mentioned, you're back in England at the moment, spending time with family and friends.
Exactly. Tomorrow I'll be spending time or hanging out with my friends and watching the Champions League football. So that will be fun. Yeah, hanging out, watching football.
Okay, it sounds good. Now, before we wrap it up, before we finish off, every week we're going to discuss different topics, and we're also going to have some permanent fixtures of this new podcast. We're going to be reviewing some of the expressions that we've each been teaching individually on our Instagram accounts. But one thing that we can do today before we finish is something that I don't want to stop recording without hearing it. After that fantastic little pun, that little play on words with holy sheet, Chris, I've heard you got a reputation for telling a lot of dad jokes. So, is that true? And can you tell us one?
Of course, yes. So obviously, a dad joke, just for anyone who doesn't understand, is a terrible joke or a shit joke, not a sheet joke. No, a shit joke. I think in Spanish they say chistes de cuñado, like the very, very silly, very stupid jokes. So before we finish, as Lewis said, we're going to do one of these dad jokes every podcast. But let's just quickly finish today's podcast with my favorite dad joke, which is, what do you call a Spanish man who can't find his car?
Juan?
Carlos. Again, it's stupid. I know that the jokes are even less funnier when I explain them, but just in case, obviously, Carlos, un nombre muy común en español, but Carlos con un T with a T on the end, coche perdido. So that's an example of a play on words, a dad joke, really stupid, but I love them. And just quickly, I want to clarify, they're not mine. I don't make these up. I'm not that intelligent. I'm not that funny. I follow a page, Dad Says Jokes. I see them all over social media, but yeah, just not for anyone to think I'm stealing these jokes. No, I do read them from other Instagram profiles. Yeah.
Malísimo el chiste, eh?
Yeah.
Terrible
That's
joke.
terrible. And that's the best one. So imagine how much worse they're going to get with every week's podcast. Yeah.
We're only going downhill from here. But
Exactly.
thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you enjoyed this new podcast. If so, make sure you leave a like and comment if you have any suggestions for better jokes in the future or other topics. So thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. See you soon.
Hasta luego. Adios.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.